What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we are going to be doing a follow-up to yesterday's video where we specifically take a look at Generation 5 Pokemon and then of course filter down to the non-legendary Pokemon and then just give you the top 10 by CP. I want to give a little bit of an update to the last video. Turns out Pokemon Go Hub, the database, is using the old formula, which means that some of the numbers that I had in the previous video are incorrect. So what I plan to do is to just scrap the video, go ahead and delete it. I will redo it at some point in time, maybe just focus on legendaries, but in this case, these are the updated numbers. They will be correct. And then for the legendary slash mythicals, a couple of them do get that 9% nerf that you may have heard about. I did go ahead and apply that as well. So once I release that, the numbers will be 100% accurate. I'm very excited about this. I think we have a really good conversation to have today for the simple fact that we have some non-legendaries that have a very good chance at becoming number 1, number 2, number 3 from their respective types. Anyways, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. I feel like I should go ahead and apologize in advance for mispronouncing some of these Pokemon. Definitely let us all know in the comment section below so that we can all learn together. Darmanitan. So Darmanitan has a max AP of 3,105. Darmanitan, as far as the standard version is concerned, is a pure fire type. We will talk about the alternate version as well. But go ahead and check this out. As far as the stats are concerned, Darmanitan has an attack stat of 263. That is its best stat. That's kind of interesting, especially from the fire typing. But even beyond this, there is also another version to it, and that is known as the Zen mode. So Darmanitan has a Zen mode, and the Zen mode is technically the best non-legendary version of just Generation 5 Pokemon as far as CP is concerned at 3,738. Very interesting, very interested in just how this will work. It is in fact a dual type in this case of fire and psychic. I'm kind of curious to see how they'll introduce it. Most likely it'll be some type of split where they're not going to even cross each other. We're just going to get two different variations, but who knows, maybe in the future we'll end up seeing something else. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Into the number 8 spot is Gigalith. So Gigalith has a max AP of 3,242. Gigalith is a pure rock type Pokemon. Taking a look at the stats, its best stat is its attack stat. You're kind of noticing a theme here, but instead, unfortunately in this case, the best stat is its attack stat at 227. That's not going to be good enough to be able to be good from like a raid perspective, but this Pokemon is fairly interesting, and I could see this Pokemon doing fairly well from a PvP standpoint, at least as far as the stats are concerned, considering it is so well balanced. But at the end of the day, we are of course going to have to get the moveset to just figure out what's going on. But I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. It might be pretty good at PvP. Into the number 7 spot is Excadrill. So Excadrill is a dual type Pokemon of ground and steel, max AP of 3,244. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. This Pokemon is fairly interesting because we have a decent attack stat at 255, as well as a stamina stat that is good too at 242. Those are clearly going to be the better stats. But we haven't really seen this typing become very relevant in Pokemon Go. I mean, look at this. We got a ground steel Pokemon, not a rock steel, anything like that, a ground steel. So I'm personally very interested to see how this will play out in the game. There's going to be a lot of competition from the ground typing. For example, you've got a Pokemon like Groudon, as well as Garchomp. Then from the steel type, there's a lot of competition as well, specifically like Metagross and Meteor Mash. So where will Excadrill fall on the overall ranking? I'm not really sure. I think the typing could play some factor into it, but with an attack stat of 255, it could end up being a fairly decent one. Moving on to the next one, we have Chandelure. Chandelure with a max AP of 3,268, a dual type of ghost and fire typing. I have to say, in the last video that I made, this Pokemon definitely got mentioned the most, that people wanted to kind of talk about it, and I'll show you why related to the stats. Check this out, an attack stat of 271. That is insane. Only issue, however, is going to be that stamina stat at 155. As you can see, its overall HP is at 135. In this case, it is definitely going to be a glass cannon, but if it ends up getting a very good moveset, it could end up being a little bit of competition versus something like a Gengar, for example. I think it's going to fall in line pretty much with Gengar. May not be better, we're just going to have to see, but I do know that a lot of people are going to be very excited to have Chandelure added in. Up next is Archeops. Now, Archeops is fairly interesting, a max AP of 3,331. Check it out, we've got the dual type of rock and flying type. So this kind of reminds me of like Aerodactyl, for example. I believe it is like a fossil type Pokemon, which kind of makes sense. Taking a look at the stats, this is why this Pokemon is so interesting. An attack stat of 292. That is insane. That is only 8 away from Mewtwo. Of course, nerfed Mewtwo. But as we can see, with an attack stat like that, you're talking about a Pokemon that has the option to kind of compete versus some other Pokemon. For example, we've got, from the rock type versus a Rampardos. Rampardos has an attack stat of 295. Archeops is barely behind that, but who knows? We're going to have to see. The moveset could dictate what's going to happen with it. I could foresee it doing a little better from the flying type standpoint, especially if it did get a move like Sky Attack. I think you're going to see more usability from that standpoint, more competition from the rock type, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Up next, we have Conkeldurr. Now, Conkeldurr is easily my favorite model out of all of the non-legendary Pokemon that we will take a look at today. A max AP of 3,337 and is a pure fighting type Pokemon. Anytime you see a fighting type Pokemon come up on the screen, we always have one question, and that is, can it beat Machamp? Unfortunately, it is not going to look like it will. As you can see, an attack stat of 243. I don't even think it has access to Dynamic Punch either, so that's definitely kind of putting it into the grave as far as taking over the #1 spot. But it is definitely a cool looking Pokemon. I can see a lot of people getting behind this, and then who knows, once they release a shiny variant of it, I think people will go crazy for it as far as the design is concerned. Moving on, we have Haxorus. So Haxorus I covered in the previous episode. Max AP of 3,605, a pure dragon type Pokemon. Now there's some good news and bad news about Haxorus. It is going to be attack heavy at 285. From the dragon typing, that could be fairly impressive. Once again, we're going to have to wait to see what the moveset is going to be like. But the bad news is going to be the fact that Generation 5 is bringing it hard when you're talking about dragon type Pokemon. There are so many Pokemon that have like a 300 attack stat, and competing against that is going to be extremely difficult. Dragon type is going to be so overcrowded once Generation 5 gets here. So as far as Haxorus is concerned, the one thing it has going for it is the fact that it is a non-legendary Pokemon, which means it will be more accessible. So from that regard, I could see it having at least some value. Up next is Hydreigon. I'm going to go ahead and admit it. I don't ever pronounce this right. People will let me know in the comments section below. I think it's Hydreigon, but let me know. Max AP of 3,625, a dual type of dark as well as dragon typing. Taking a look at the stats, a fairly well-balanced Pokemon. The best stat is its attack stat at 256. Kind of an interesting typing combination. I'm curious to see how it would perform from the dark type. Like I said, I really do think dragon type, it's kind of out of any reach for any non-legendary Pokemon. Going to be very difficult to go up against, so I'm going to be looking at this Pokemon from the dark type to see if it will be effective. But once again, there's a lot of competition from Pokemon like Weavile as well as Tyranitar. Moving on up the list, we're in at the #1 spot. Like I said before, technically not #1 just because of the Zen variation, but in this case we have Volcarona. Max AP of 3,645. Volcarona is a dual type of bug and fire typing. Definitely an interesting type combination involved. It's going to gain a little bit more resistances and have a little bit fewer things that it's going to be weak to just because of this combination, as opposed to just like a general bug type Pokemon. So Volcarona, how is it going to be interesting? An attack stat of 265. Now that may not sound that high, but if you think about it, there's really not that much competition from the bug typing. You have a Pokemon like Scizor pretty much running the game, maybe Pinsir as well. But then when you add in a Pokemon like Volcarona, I think there's going to be a lot of flexibility, and we may end up seeing ourselves the first bug type Pokemon that ends up being used a little bit more than some of the other ones. I'm personally very excited about it. As far as all the Pokemon are concerned, I ended up seeing a lot of compliments about Volcarona. People are very excited about this. Unique type combination, it's going to dominate from the bug typing. Who knows? It may end up doing fairly well from the fire typing, but there's going to be quite a bit of competition to go up against with Generation 5. So yeah, that just about wraps up the video. I'm super excited about Generation 5, and I especially love covering the non-legendary Pokemon just because you can get them from a budget standpoint. But anyways, I want to go ahead and end on a question of the day. What is your favorite non-legendary Pokemon from Generation 5? Maybe we covered it today, maybe we didn't, but either way, definitely let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you next time. I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the supporters over at Patreon. You definitely make this possible, and I 100% appreciate this support. If you are interested in supporting my channel on Patreon, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description.